Anna Wilson woke up in her dilapidated apartment on the outskirts of Chicago before the sun had a chance to rise above the barren trees outside her window. The harsh buzz of the alarm clock at 4 a.m. was a stark reminder of the life she had known for over 3 decades. She straightened her back, feeling the familiar ache spread from her weary feet after a long day of cleaning. This two-bedroom apartment with its paper-thin walls and cracked tile floors was all she owned. The heater clattered every winter, the old gas stove sometimes refused to light, but it was her home. And for many long years, it was where she raised her only son, Michael. She vividly remembered the day her husband Robert left her forever. It was a drizzly afternoon in 1995 when Michael was just 3. Robert, a tall man with a warm smile and rough hands from his work as a mechanic, collapsed from a sudden heart attack at the auto shop. No insurance, no will, just a small debt and immeasurable grief for Anna. She held her tiny son close, tears streaming down her face, whispering, "I'll take care of you, Michael. I promise." She was only 28 then, a vibrant woman with long brown hair and hopeful blue eyes. But life gave her no time to grieve. She had to survive to raise her son to become the family's backbone with no one by her side. Cleaning houses became her lifeline. She started with small homes in the neighborhood, scrubbing floors, washing dishes, and doing laundry for meager wages. Gradually, she moved to the luxurious mansions in downtown Chicago where wealthy families lived in splendor she could only dream of. Each morning, she rose early, packed her lunch in an old plastic container, usually a cheese sandwich and an apple, and caught the first bus downtown. On the bus, she gazed out the window at the glittering skyscrapers under streetlights, wondering if her life would ever change. But then she thought of Michael, the boy with bright eyes and a smile just like his father's, and all her exhaustion melted away. It's all for him, she told herself, clutching her bag of cleaning supplies. The early years of raising Michael alone were a living hell. He cried for his father every night, and Anna would hold him, soothing him with stories of Robert, the heroic dad, who taught her how to fix a bike and made the best barbecue. She worked tirelessly cleaning houses in the morning, taking on sewing jobs in the afternoon, and cooking and helping Michael with homework at night. Most of Michael's clothes were hand-me-downs from church donations, but she ensured they were clean and neat. She sold her gold wedding necklace, the only gift from Robert, to buy school books. She borrowed money from friends to pay for preschool, and when Michael fell ill, she stayed up all night by his bedside, praying for his recovery. "Mom, why don't we have a car?" like the neighbors Michael once asked as they waited for the bus in the rain. Anna smiled, stroking his hair. "Because I'm saving for your future, sweetheart. One day, you'll have everything." Michael grew up bright and eager to learn. Anna beamed with pride when he earned high grades, won a math competition in elementary school, and was praised as an outstanding student by his teachers. She pushed him to study more, read books, and join clubs. She worked double shifts to save for his college fund, sometimes skipping meals to stretch her budget. "You'll be successful, Michael," she told him every night before bed. "You won't have to live like me." Michael hugged her tightly, whispering, "I love you most in the world." Those moments were her fuel, the faint light in her dark life. She dreamed of a future where Michael would take her traveling, introduce her to his friends as a heroic mother. She sacrificed her youth, her health, even love. She turned down every suitor, believing Michael is enough. When Michael was 18, an acceptance letter from Harvard arrived, and Anna wept with joy. It was the prestigious university in Massachusetts, thousands of miles from Chicago. She hugged him, tears streaming. "I'm so proud of you, son." But deep down, her heart ached. Her son was leaving, and she'd be alone in her cold apartment. She sold more old possessions to buy his plane ticket, packing his luggage with homemade food. On the day she saw him off at the airport, she fought back tears, waving, "Study hard, son. Call me often." Michael nodded, hugging her one last time. "I'll make you proud." But then things began to change. Michael's calls grew infrequent from weekly to monthly. When she called, he answered hurriedly, sounding distracted. "Mom, I'm in a study group." She visited him once, bringing a basket of fruit and homemade cookies, but he avoided introducing her to his friends. "They're busy, Mom," he said, his voice hesitant. She noticed his pause when she mentioned her job. "I'm still cleaning houses, son." Michael stayed silent for a moment, then changed the subject. She wondered, was he ashamed of her? Of the poor life she'd sacrificed to shield him? The pain crept in, but she pushed it aside, telling herself, "He's busy studying. He'll understand." Michael graduated with an economics degree, and she cried with pride through his ceremony. She wore an old dress, sitting in the back row watching him receive his diploma on stage. but he only hugged her briefly before turning to his friends, young men and women from wealthy families. "Mom, I have to go to a party with friends," he said. She nodded, smiling. "Go have fun." Back home, she sat alone staring at an old family photo, wondering if her sacrifices were worth it. Family, the thing she valued above all, was cracking bit by bit like the tiles on her floor. She didn't know that those cracks would soon become a chasm. Michael returned to Chicago but didn't come back to her. He rented a luxury apartment downtown, starting a job at a major financial firm. Their meetings grew rare, and each time she felt the distance. Yet she held on to hope, believing family love would prevail. She didn't realize betrayal was looming, and her journey to self-liberation was about to begin. Anna Wilson stood before the mirror in her tiny bathroom, the dim fluorescent light casting shadows on her face, etched with the lines of time. She adjusted her now graying brown hair, smoothing the old blouse she wore only for special occasions. Today, she planned to visit Michael the first time in 3 months since he returned to Chicago. She held a box of homemade chocolate cookies, Michael's childhood favorite, and stepped outside. The cold October wind swept through the suburbs, making her shiver, but her heart warmed with hope of seeing her son's smile, feeling a flicker of the family bond she'd spent her life nurturing. Michael lived in a gleaming high-rise downtown, where expensive cars glided by and young professionals in sleek suits hurried along. When Anna pressed the intercom, a polite voice asked, "Who's this?" She smiled softly. "It's Mom here to see my son." A long pause followed, as if Michael was weighing something before the door buzzed open. She entered the lobby, where polished marble floors reflected her image, a simple woman out of place in this opulent space. The receptionist eyed her curiously, but Anna kept her head high, stepping into the elevator. Michael's apartment was another world: modern furniture, white leather sofa, large glass windows overlooking Chicago's skyline. He opened the door, still in his unwrinkled suit hair, perfectly styled. "Mom," he said, his voice flat, not cold, but lacking the warmth she once knew. "I didn't know you were coming." Anna smiled, holding up the cookie box. "I thought you'd like these. It's been so long, I missed you." Michael nodded, letting her in, but his glance at the cookies held a hint of discomfort. "Thanks, Mom, but I'm on a diet. Sophia says we should stay healthy." Sophia. The name stung Anna's heart. She knew her son was getting married, but she'd never met the woman. Michael had only mentioned her briefly, a young lawyer from a wealthy family working at a prestigious firm. "She's very busy," he'd said when Anna asked to meet her. "I'll arrange it later," but every time she brought it up, he dodged, as if introducing his mother was a burden. Today she hoped to hear more about the woman her son loved, but Michael led her to the sofa, poured a glass of water, and began talking about his job. "The company just signed a big deal," he said, voice brimming with pride. "I'm working with people from Silicon Valley. They want me to lead a new project." Anna nodded, trying to show interest, but she noticed he didn't ask about her health, her work, her life. The conversation was one-sided, as if she were merely a listener, not the mother who'd given her life for him. She tried to shift the topic. "How are you and Sophia doing? I'd love to meet her just to say hello." Michael hesitated, fidgeting with the expensive watch on his wrist. "She's really busy, Mom. Her job involves big clients. You can meet her later." His words pierced Anna like a needle. She felt the distance, not just physical, but emotional. Michael was no longer the boy who hugged her after good grades or held her hand on the bus. He was now a man in a world of wealth and prestige where she seemed to have no place. She forced a smile, hiding her pain. "Okay, I understand. Let me know when she's free." Michael nodded, but his eyes drifted to his phone, as if eager for the visit to end. On the rattling bus ride home, Anna stared out the window, her heart heavy. The untouched cookie box in her bag was a reminder that her efforts were no longer valued. She recalled Michael as a child, running to hug her after school, sharing dreams of becoming an engineer or scientist. She'd believed her love would keep him close, that her sacrifices would be repaid with connection, but now she felt like a shadow in his life, one he wanted to hide. Back at her apartment, Anna set the cookies on the kitchen table unopened. She sat gazing at an old photo on the wall, her and Michael at 10, beaming in a park. That smile now felt like a luxury, a dream. She wondered what had changed. Was it because Michael had grown up entering a world she didn't belong to, or had she been so consumed by sacrifice that she forgot to teach him to value the simple things? The pain wasn't just from the distance, but from feeling forgotten, as if her years of sweat and tears meant nothing. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. Lying in bed, listening to the heater's clatter, she thought of the last time Michael called her mom with genuine warmth when he graduated high school, hugging her at the school gate, saying, "You're my hero." Now, mom and his voice sounded like an obligation, not love. She wondered if she'd done something wrong, given him too much until he forgot the worth of her sacrifices. The next morning, Michael called. His voice was curt, almost rushed. "Mom, Sophia and I are getting engaged. I need you to help buy the wedding rings. My accounts are tied up just temporarily. Can you help?" Anna froze, gripping the phone. She wanted to refuse to ask why he couldn't manage, but his voice, the same one that once begged for book money, softened her. "I'll try," she said, knowing she had little left. To buy the rings, she'd have to sell Robert's anniversary bracelet, empty her savings, and maybe pawn her mother's old watch, the last remnant of her family. Hanging up, Anna felt a wave of pain surge in her chest. She wasn't just buying rings, she was buying hope that Michael would once again look at her with respect. But deep down, she knew the gap between them couldn't be bridged with gold or diamonds. It was an invisible chasm built from Michael's shame and her pain. Then came the invitation to the wedding rehearsal dinner, an invitation that would change everything. Anna Wilson stood before the mirror in her dim apartment, her hands trembling as she adjusted the pale blue scarf, the only keepsake from long ago festive days. The previous week, Michael had called, his voice tinged with forced cheer. "Mom, the wedding rehearsal dinner is this weekend. Sophia's parents are hosting it at their country club in the suburbs. Come by just for a bit." The invitation was a faint ray of light in her darkness, easing some of her worries about the wedding rings she'd poured everything into buying. She'd mailed the rings to Michael with a brief note of blessing, hoping the gift would open a door to meeting Sophia, the future daughter-in-law, the woman her son loved enough to build a new life with. She spent the week preparing as if it were the most important occasion of her life. Early in the morning, she washed her white blouse, the one reserved for holidays or rare job interviews. Using an old iron, she smoothed every crease, then went to the nearby bakery to buy ingredients for homemade cookies. Her hands deftly mixed dough, adding chocolate chips and a hint of vanilla, recalling times when young Michael sat by the kitchen, eyes sparkling as he waited for the cookies to bake. "I'll bring these, maybe Sophia will like them," she told herself, wrapping them in a pretty paper box with a red ribbon. She imagined hugging the bride, whispering blessings, perhaps being called mom for the first time in a new family. The hope made her smile, though deep down doubt lingered. Why had Michael never arranged a private meeting with Sophia? "She's busy," he always said, but Anna sensed avoidance like an invisible wall rising between them. On the day of the event, Anna woke at dawn, bathed carefully, and tied her hair neatly. She wore the white blouse, a black skirt past her knees, and polished black shoes she'd cleaned with a damp cloth. Looking in the mirror, she saw a woman past 60 with wrinkles around her eyes and calloused hands from years of labor, yet her eyes still shone with resilience. She took the bus to the suburbs, sitting in the back, clutching the cookie box like a treasure. The bus rolled through familiar streets, then into a lush area with mansions hidden behind ancient trees. The country club emerged like a palace, towering iron gates, perfectly manicured lawns, and luxury cars parked in rows. The valet gave her a curious look as she handed over the keys to her old car, a vehicle she rarely used, saved for occasions like this. Stepping into the main hall, Anna felt like she'd entered an alien world. Crystal chandeliers sparkled from the high ceiling, illuminating abstract paintings and glossy marble floors. Laughter echoed, mingling with the clink of wine glasses and the scent of expensive perfume. Guests were impeccably dressed men in dark suits, women in dazzling gowns, jewelry glinting under the lights. Anna gripped her cookie box, feeling a wave of alienation. She didn't belong here, where people sipped champagne from delicate glasses and nibbled appetizers she couldn't name. A white-gloved waiter approached, asking politely, "What would you like, ma'am?" She shook her head, forcing a smile. "Just water, thank you." She stood in a corner, scanning the room for Michael. Her heart raced when she spotted him in the distance, tall, in a perfectly tailored navy suit, hair slicked back, laughing with a group of young people. He looked like he belonged, confident and charming, with no trace of the boy who wore church hand-me-downs. She waved, but he didn't see. She stepped closer, calling softly, "Michael." He turned, his smile faltering briefly before returning, but not the warm one she hoped for. "Mom," he said, voice low, pulling her to a quiet corner. "You made it." "Great." She hugged him gently, feeling his body stiffen. "I brought cookies for everyone," she said. Michael glanced at the box, nodding absently. "Sure, set them down. Don't feel out of place, Mom. It's casual here. His words stung, but she brushed it off, focusing on her hope of meeting Sophia. Where's Sophia? I'd love to say hello. Michael hesitated, his eyes scanning the crowd. She's talking to her parents. I'll get her. Minutes later, a young woman approached, golden hair swept up a red dress hugging her slender frame, a radiant smile like a star. Sophia, the beauty from the photo Michael had shown her. Anna opened her mouth to say, "Hello, I'm Michael's mother." But before she could, Michael cut in, voice clear. "Sophia, this is Anna, an old family friend." Anna's world froze. Old family friend. Not his mother, not the woman who birthed and raised him through hardship. Just a vague acquaintance, a ghost from a past he wanted hidden. Her face flushed, her greeting stuck in her throat. Sophia smiled politely, shaking her hand. "So nice to meet you, Anna. Thanks for coming." Anna forced a response, her voice trembling. "Yes, you too, dear." Her hands clutched the cookie box, crumpling the wrapping. Sophia nodded and walked away, Michael following to chat with other guests. Anna stood frozen in the corner, an invisible statue amidst the opulent crowd. She watched Michael laughing loudly, clapping friends' shoulders, holding Sophia's waist possessively. He looked happy at home, in a world that had no place for her, for the years she scrubbed floors so he could have books for the nights she stayed up when he was sick. Betrayal surged like a knife in her heart. He wasn't just distant, he was erasing her from his life. She sipped water from a flimsy glass, her eyes stinging but tearless. Guests passed her without a glance, as if she were a misplaced server. An hour passed. Michael didn't look back. She left before dessert, stepping into the dark night, the cold wind whipping her face. On the bus home, Anna clutched the untouched cookie box, tears falling silently. She was no longer a mother in her son's eyes, just a burden from a poor past. Her doubts became reality. Michael was ashamed of her, of the roots he sought to deny. But in that pain, a small spark ignited, a spark of awakening that she couldn't keep sacrificing without recognition. The rehearsal wasn't an end, but the start of a change she didn't yet know. Anna Wilson sat motionless on the old wooden chair in her small kitchen, the flickering fluorescent light casting shadows on the untouched cookie box from the rehearsal dinner. Night had fallen, but sleep eluded her. The heater's clatter mixed with the wind whistling through the window cracks, whispering of the pain she tried to suppress. The box, its red ribbon now crumpled, was a bitter reminder of the moment Michael called her an old family friend. Those words, sharp as a blade, echoed in her mind, each syllable cutting into a heart already scarred. She looked at her hands' thin fingers with short nails calloused from years of scrubbing floors and washing dishes. Those hands had soothed Michael when he cried, saved every penny for his books, but now they clutched only pain. She rose, walking slowly to the small wooden cabinet where she kept the wedding rings, a gift she'd sacrificed everything to buy for Michael and Sophia. The red velvet box lay quietly in the drawer beside old photos and her mother's tarnished silver bracelet. Anna opened it, gazing at the rings glinting in the dim light. They were beautiful, elegant, chosen with a mother's love. She'd imagined Sophia wearing them, thanking her, pulling her into a warm embrace. But now that vision shattered, replaced by Michael's distant gaze as he denied her before his bride. She closed the box, set it on the table, feeling as if she were closing a chapter she'd poured her heart into writing. That night, Anna didn't cry, not because she wasn't hurting, but because her tears seemed to have run dry. Instead, she sat clutching a cold cup of tea, replaying the rehearsal in her mind. Michael's forced smile, how he quickly pulled Sophia away, his eyes sliding past her as if she were invisible. She wondered when her son had become such a stranger. Was it during college when he stopped mentioning her, or when he entered Sophia's world where she, a cleaner with a rundown apartment, was something to hide? She recalled a time when Michael was young, writing a school essay calling her his hero for working tirelessly to raise him. That essay was somewhere in her keepsake box, but now it felt like a tale from another life. The next morning, Anna called Michael, hoping a conversation might ease her pain. The phone rang endlessly, then went to voicemail. "Michael, it's Mom," she said, her voice calm but trembling. "I just want to talk. Call me back." But the phone stayed silent all day. She watched the clock, its second hand ticking steadily, counting each fading moment of hope. Michael's wedding day arrived, and she sat by the phone waiting for a text, a late invitation. "Mom, come." I was wrong. But the screen remained dark, no notifications. Anna held the ring box, her fingers tracing the soft velvet, then set it down. "You don't want me there," she whispered to herself, her voice choked but dry. For the first time she faced the truth, Michael had chosen a life without her. She stood, put on an old coat, and stepped outside. No destination, just a need to escape the stifling apartment where every corner reminded her of Michael. She walked through familiar streets where she and Michael once held hands, waiting for the bus. She paused at the old bakery where she'd bought him a chocolate cupcake to celebrate his first A in math. That boy had hugged her tightly, saying, "You're the best, Mom." Now the bakery had new owners, its windows dusty, but the memory was vivid as yesterday. She continued past the park where Michael played on slides, past the elementary school where she waited after classes. Each step was a journey back in time, but also a reminder that the past couldn't be reclaimed. Cold wind swept through rustling dry leaves underfoot. Anna stopped at a park bench, sat, and let her mind drift. She thought of Robert, her husband, gone too soon. He'd said, "Anna, you're stronger than you know. Don't let anyone make you forget that." Those words, buried under life's burdens, returned like a beacon. She realized she'd spent her life sacrificing, waiting for Michael to look back, but perhaps it was time to live for herself. Her son's rejection wasn't just betrayal, it was a wake-up call. She couldn't remain the mother waiting in the shadows. Returning home as sunset painted the sky red, Anna stood at her apartment door, clutching her keys. A small fire sparked within her, not anger but resolve. She wouldn't attend the wedding, not out of spite, but to protect herself. The wedding rings she'd keep, not for revenge, but to remind herself her love was worth more than Michael's neglect. She entered, opened a drawer, and took out an old notebook. In the dim light she wrote, "Today I choose me." It wasn't a grand declaration, but a promise to herself that pain would no longer define her. Sitting, Anna gazed out the window where city lights flickered in the distance. She thought of the rehearsal, Michael's distant eyes, and realized she hadn't just lost her son, but herself in years of blind sacrifice. But now she'd found a new spark, a quiet but fierce resolve. She would no longer be invisible. In her small, cracked apartment, Anna Wilson began to feel a strength she'd long forgotten. Tomorrow she would act not to reclaim Michael, but to reclaim her own life. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting a faint glow over Anna Wilson's small apartment where she sat silently on the creaky wooden floor beside a dusty iron box. The night after Michael's wedding, sleep still evaded her. The pain from the rehearsal dinner and her son's silence crashed like waves, drowning her in tangled memories. The wedding rings, still in their red velvet box on the table, gleamed as a bitter reminder of the sacrifices she'd poured her heart into. But tonight, instead of sinking into pain, Anna felt an odd urge, a need to rediscover something, though she wasn't sure what. She opened the iron box untouched since Robert's death. Inside were fragments of a past life, Michael's birth certificate, the paid-off mortgage contract, a few letters from her mother, and Robert's military discharge papers. The musty smell of old paper tinged with damp brought back Robert, the man with a gentle smile and eyes that saw her as his world. He'd said, "Anna, you're the strongest person I know. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." Her heart heavy, she sifted through the papers. Then her fingers brushed a cream-colored envelope tucked beneath the stack. The envelope was thin, sealed with Robert's slanted handwriting. "To Anna, my love." Her heart pounded as if touching a secret time had buried. She opened it carefully, afraid to tear her husband's last keepsake. Inside was a short letter and a neatly folded stack of documents. She read the letter under the dim light. "Dear Anna, if you're reading this, I hope you're as strong as I always knew. I'm not good with fancy words, but I want you to have a secure future. These stocks are all I could do. They're not worth much now, but one day they'll help you. I trust you'll know how to use them. Forever yours, Robert." Stunned, her trembling hands opened the documents, stock certificates from fledgling tech and energy companies from over 2 decades ago, names like Amazon, others like a solar energy firm Robert had excitedly mentioned. He'd secretly invested his meager mechanic's wages, hiding it from her to spare her worry. She'd once laughed at his big dreams for buying these stocks, but he'd just smiled. "One day they'll change your life." Heart racing, Anna powered up her old laptop, a gift from Michael before college. She typed each stock code into a valuation website, each number making her breath catch. Those small companies were now giants. The total value reached millions of dollars, a sum unimaginable to a woman who'd counted pennies for Michael's milk. She sank into a chair, clutching her chest, unable to believe reality. Robert, who never had more than a few dollars in his wallet, had left her a fortune, an escape she never knew existed. She reread the letter, tears falling silently, not for the money, but for Robert's love, a quiet man who planned for her future even knowing he might not see it. He'd seen what she hadn't, that one day she'd need to stand tall not just as a sacrificing mother, but as a woman living for herself. The letter was a whisper from the past reminding her she deserved more than Michael's treatment. The next morning, Anna contacted the financial advisor Robert noted in the papers, David Harper, an older man still working in a small Chicago office. She met him bringing the envelope and stalks her heart a mix of excitement and doubt. Harper's office in an unassuming building was warm, with the smell of coffee and wooden bookshelves. With silver hair and round glasses, he reviewed the documents, then looked at her eyes wide with amazement. "Mrs. Wilson, do you know how much these are worth?" She shook her head, voice soft. "I just found them last night." Harper smiled, leaning back, typing numbers into his computer. "You're not just wealthy, Mrs. Wilson. You can change your entire life." He explained the stocks were legally hers, and Robert had meticulously completed the paperwork for easy transfer. Harper suggested opening accounts, hiring a lawyer to finalize the inheritance and investing the funds. "You could retire, buy a new home, travel anything you want," he said. Anna left the office in a daze, as if walking in a dream. On the bus home, she watched skyscrapers pass, but this time they weren't symbols of an alien world. She had the power to enter it not as a cleaner, but as a woman with financial strength and self-respect. Michael's pain lingered, but it was no longer everything. Thinking of Robert's letter, his faith in her, a new resolve rose. She wouldn't let her son or anyone define her worth anymore. Back at her apartment, Anna sat at the kitchen table, opening the notebook where she'd written, "Today, I choose me." She added, "I will live for myself, for Robert, for what we built together." She was no longer the forgotten mother, the invisible cleaner. She was Anna Wilson, who'd found the key to a new door, one leading to freedom and self-awareness. The rings on the table were no longer symbols of futile sacrifice, but reminders that she'd loved fiercely, and now she'd love herself with the same intensity. Anna Wilson stood in her small kitchen, morning light filtering through the curtains, illuminating the red velvet box holding the wedding rings she'd poured her heart into buying. After Michael's wedding, she no longer waited for a late invitation or apology from her son. The pain from the rehearsal dinner, when he called her an old family friend, still smoldered, but it was no longer a consuming fire, only embers urging her to act. The unexpected fortune from Robert's stocks, now worth millions, gave her new strength, not just financially, but in self-worth. She was no longer the enduring mother waiting for recognition. Today, she would reclaim her voice. She sat at the table, opened her old laptop, and began a task she never imagined: gathering evidence. Over the years of Michael's growing distance, she'd saved some texts, emails, and notes, truths she'd tried to ignore. She scrolled through messages from his college days. "Mom, don't tell anyone what you do. Okay, my friends wouldn't get it." Or a brief email from last year. "Mom, I'm busy. Don't come to my office. It's not convenient." Each word was a stab, but now they became weapons. She screenshot every message, every remark where Michael belittled her, erasing her from his curated life. One text stopped her cold. "Sophia doesn't need to know what Mom does. She's used to a different life. You get it, right?" Anna closed the laptop, her breath heavy, not from pain, but from a steely resolve. She didn't want to destroy Michael. She still loved her son, though her heart was cracked. But she couldn't let him live in the delusion that he could bury his past, bury her without consequences. She took a blank sheet of paper, an old ballpoint pen, and wrote a concise letter, each word carved from her heart. "Sophia, some men bury their past. Others pretend it never existed. But the truth always rises. I am Michael's mother, not an old friend. This is what he didn't want you to know. Anna." She folded the letter, placed it in a small envelope, leaving no return address. Next, she opened the velvet box, gazing at the gleaming rings. They were no longer symbols of mother-son love, but evidence of sacrifices Michael took for granted. She placed them in a small paper box with the letter and a USB drive containing all the screenshots. She wrapped the box in plain paper, labeling it only with Sophia's name and the address of her luxury downtown Chicago apartment. No congratulations, no extra explanations, just the truth, cold and sharp. Anna stood, put on her coat, and stepped outside. The Chicago sky was gray clouds heavy, but she felt an odd relief. She went to the post office, sent the package with overnight delivery, and lingered by the mailbox, hearing the click as it closed. It wasn't the sound of an end, but of a new beginning. Back home, Anna didn't wait for Michael or Sophia's reaction. Instead, she called David Harper, the financial advisor who'd verified her stock value. "Mr. Harper, I want to start," she said, voice firm. "I want to transfer the stock, set up accounts, and plan for myself." Harper over the phone couldn't hide his surprise. "Mrs. Wilson, you're ready?" She smiled, her heart lighter. "For the first time in days. I've been ready for a long time. I just didn't know it." That afternoon, she met Harper at his office. He guided her through the steps, opening investment accounts, hiring a lawyer to finalize the inheritance, and planning the fund's use. "You could buy a new home, travel, or invest in a personal project," he suggested. Anna shook her head. "I don't want extravagance. I want security, freedom, and to do something meaningful." Harper nodded, eyes full of respect. "I understand. We'll start slowly but surely." Leaving the office, Anna felt as if she'd shed an old, heavy coat. For the first time, she didn't think of Michael or worry about pleasing others. She thought only of herself, Anna Wilson, who'd survived hardships and now stood before a new door. That night, she sat at the kitchen table, opening the notebook from recent days. "Beneath today, I choose me," she wrote. "I won't let anyone make me invisible anymore. I deserve to be seen." She sipped hot tea, its citrus scent lingering, and looked out the window. Chicago's lights twinkled in the distance, but this time she didn't feel like an outsider. She was part of this world with the strength Robert left her and the courage she was reclaiming. She didn't know what would happen when Sophia received the package, whether she'd be angry, confront Michael, or quietly leave. But Anna didn't care. Sending the package wasn't about destruction, but liberation, freeing her from the role of the enduring mother, the invisible cleaner. She'd placed the truth in Sophia's hands, and now she'd place her future in her own. As faint moonlight shone through the window, Anna stood, turned off the light, and for the first time in years, slept soundly, unhaunted by Michael's image or the pain of being forgotten. Whatever tomorrow brought, she'd begun walking her own path, head high, heart fearless. 2 days after Michael's wedding, morning light streamed through the window of Sophia's upscale Chicago apartment, where she sat quietly at the granite kitchen counter holding a steaming matcha latte. A small package with no return address lay before her, a plain paper box delivered that morning, her name neatly handwritten. Still in her silk robe, Sophia opened it with mild curiosity, thinking it might be a late gift from a wedding guest. But when the lid lifted, she froze. The wedding rings gleamed in their red velvet case beside a USB drive and a folded note. She opened the note, reading the short, sharp words, "Sophia, some men bury their past. Others pretend it never existed. But the truth always rises. I am Michael's mother, not an old friend. Anna." The name Anna hit Sophia like a blow to the chest. She recalled the woman standing quietly in the corner at the rehearsal dinner with her white blouse and homemade cookie box. Michael had introduced her as an old family friend, and she'd believed him without question. Now this letter stunned her. With slightly trembling hands, she plugged the USB into her laptop. A folder popped up labeled Truth. Inside were dozens of screenshots, texts, emails, notes from Michael. "My mom's not someone to show off," one read. "Sophia's used to a different lifestyle. She wouldn't get my mom's cleaning job another. The most painful, I can't let Sophia meet my mom. She doesn't belong in this world." Sophia read each line, her breath quickening, face paling. She closed the laptop, sitting motionless, feeling as if she'd been yanked from a beautiful dream into a harsh reality. She stood, changed into a simple dress, tied her hair in a ponytail, and left the apartment without her phone. She walked aimlessly through Chicago's bustling streets, cars and people a blur. Her mind raced Michael's words, echoing Anna's, "A good person, just someone who helped our family." She'd trusted him, loved the confident, ambitious man who always made her laugh. But now she saw another Michael, one who'd deny his own mother to craft a perfect image. Not anger, but deep disappointment drove her forward through upscale neighborhoods, then into a quiet suburb where red brick homes nestled under trees. She stopped before a low, old building, unsure why her feet led her here. An elderly man on a nearby bench holding a newspaper looked up. Looking for Anna Wilson, he asked, voice calm as if he knew. Sophia, stunned, said, "How did you know?" He smiled. "Around here, she's the only one people come looking for." He pointed to a door on the second floor. Sophia took a deep breath, climbed the stairs, her heart pounding. She knocked once, then twice. The door opened and Anna stood there in a simple shirt, hair tied back, eyes calm but sharp. The two women stared at each other, silent for seconds that felt like eternity. I'm Sophia, she finally said, voice trembling. I know you're not a family friend. You're Michael's mother. Anna nodded, unsurprised, as if she'd anticipated this meeting. Come in, she said, opening the door wider. They sat across from each other at the small kitchen table, a teapot wafting a faint citrus scent. Anna poured tea, sliding a cup to Sophia, her movements deliberate yet meaningful. You read the letter, Anna asked. Sophia nodded, eyes red. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't know anything. Anna looked at her gaze not accusing but steady. No one knows if they're not told. Sophia gripped the teacup, seeking comfort in its warmth. What did you do for him? I need to understand. Anna spoke, her voice even but weighty. She described years of grueling work, cleaning houses from dawn to dusk, hands bleeding from harsh chemicals just so Michael could have books and a chance at college. She spoke of sleepless nights when he was sick of selling her husband's bracelet for the wedding rings. And she recounted the rehearsal dinner, standing alone, disowned by her son before everyone. Sophia listened, tears streaming. I thought Michael was a good man, she whispered, but he built his life on lies. Anna touched Sophia's hand lightly, her voice gentle but firm. Don't apologize. You didn't know, but now you do, and you can decide what to do with that truth. Sophia nodded, wiping her tears. I won't let him continue like this. And Anna, I want to help you if you'll let me. Anna smiled, her eyes glinting with a new light. I don't need help out of pity, Sophia, but if you think I'm worthy, I'll consider it. Sophia stood, her shoulders straighter than when she arrived. I'll fix this, she said, voice resolute. And I won't forget you. She left, leaving Anna at the kitchen table, the tea still warm. Anna gazed out the window, sunlight filtering through the trees, feeling a shift, not because Sophia came, but because she dared to speak, to let the truth step into the light. The letter rings and USB weren't just defiance, but a declaration that she was no longer invisible. Sophia, with her tears and promise, was proof that Anna was seen not as a forgotten mother, but as a woman with strength and a story of her own. Anna Wilson stood by the window of her small apartment, the late afternoon light filtering through the trees, illuminating the green plants she'd placed on the sill. The apartment, though still modest now, had a new breath, a few small paintings from a weekend market, a cozy gray rug. After her meeting with Sophia, Anna felt as if she'd crossed an invisible threshold. The letter, wedding rings, and USB of truths had been sent, not to destroy Michael, but to free her from the role of the enduring mother, always awaiting recognition. But she knew the act wouldn't pass quietly. A storm was coming sooner than she thought. 2 weeks after the wedding, as Chicago's sunlight softened with cool autumn breezes, the apartment doorbell rang. Anna paused, wiping the kitchen table, a chill running down her spine. She opened the door, and there was Michael. He stood there, no longer the confident man in the expensive suit she'd seen at the rehearsal dinner. His clothes were wrinkled hair, disheveled eyes sunken with exhaustion. Mom, he said, voice hoarse, as if the word had been dragged from deep within. Anna didn't respond, standing still, hand lightly on the doorframe, her gaze calm but piercing. Can I come in? Michael asked, voice low, almost pleading. Anna didn't answer immediately, stepping aside to let him pass. Michael entered, glancing around the apartment, as if seeing it for the first time. The small kitchen table where he'd done homework, the worn bookshelf holding his old books. He sat on the sofa, hands clasped tightly, shoulders hunched. Anna sat across on her familiar wooden chair, silent, waiting. The silence between mother and son was heavy, a wall built from years of distance. Finally, Michael spoke, voice trembling. Why did you do it? You sent that package to Sophia. You ruined everything. Anna raised an eyebrow, unshaken. Ruined, she echoed, voice steady but sharp. You did that yourself, Michael. You erased me from your life, called me an old friend. I just let the truth speak. Michael shook his head, hands clenching tighter as if restraining anger. You don't understand. I was protecting Sophia, protecting the life I built. You think her family would accept me if they knew you? What you do? Anna felt a stab of pain, but kept her voice calm. What I do. Clean houses, raise you, sell my keepsakes for your wedding rings. She stood, stepping closer, eyes locked on her son's face. You were ashamed of me, Michael. But I'm not ashamed of myself. I gave you everything, and you repaid me by pretending I didn't exist. Michael opened his mouth to argue, but she raised a hand to stop him. Don't. I've heard enough of your excuses in those messages. Michael bowed his head, fingers digging into his knees. I didn't mean to hurt you, he whispered. I wanted to belong in Sophia's world. I didn't want to be seen as the poor kid from the suburbs. Anna looked at him, and for the first time she felt not anger, but deep sadness. Before her wasn't the ambitious man laughing at the country club, but the boy who once held her hand, scared of being teased for worn clothes. But that boy had chosen to flee his past, pushing her out of his life in the process. You didn't just hurt me, Anna said, voice low but firm. You hurt yourself. You built a life on lies, and now that it's crumbling, you blame me. Michael looked up, eyes red. Sophia left, he said, voice breaking. She saw the messages, said I'm not trustworthy. I lost my job too. The company found out I fudged some things on my resume. He gave a bitter, hollow laugh. Are you happy now? Anna stepped closer, sitting across from him, eyes unwavering. This isn't about happiness, Michael. It's about respect. I gave you everything, not just money, but love, faith. You chose to discard it. Now you face the consequences. Michael shook his head, standing abruptly, voice rising. So what do you want? Revenge? To see me lose everything so you feel better? Anna didn't flinch. No, son. It's about truth. I didn't ruin your life. You did that by burying me. Silence enveloped the room again. Michael stood, fists clenched, like a child who'd lost control. Anna watched him, her heart free of the waves of anger or pain she'd once felt. Instead, she felt clarity, as if she truly saw her son for the first time, not through a mother's blind love, but through the eyes of a woman who'd reclaimed herself. I'm building a new life, she said, voice soft but certain. Not to punish you, but because I deserve it. You don't have to understand, but you can't sabotage it. Michael didn't respond. He turned, walked to the door. No goodbye, no glance back. The door closed, leaving Anna in the quiet apartment. But this time she didn't cry. She stood, poured a fresh cup of tea, and opened her small notebook. Below, I won't let anyone make me invisible anymore, she wrote. Today I stood up for myself. She looked out the window where sunset gilded the trees. Michael could leave, but she no longer needed him to feel whole. This confrontation wasn't a victory, but a liberation, another step toward becoming the woman she'd always been capable of being, but never dared. Anna Wilson stood in the small garden behind her new home, gently touching the vibrant yellow petals of sunflowers, tall and proud under Chicago's early autumn sun. The house wasn't lavish, unlike the high-rises Michael once lived in, but it was hers, a clean, bright space with large windows and polished wooden floors. She'd bought it with part of Robert's stock money, not to boast, but to affirm she deserved a place to call home. Each morning she watered the flowers, tended small vegetable patches, and felt a peace she'd never known in her years of sacrifice. Her meeting with Sophia and confrontation with Michael had been a turning point. After Sophia left Michael, she didn't just keep her promise to help Anna, she opened a new door. Now a friend, rather than her son's bride, Sophia, invited Anna to join her tech startup focused on community solutions, especially for struggling women. You have life experience no school can teach, Sophia said at a meeting in her bright downtown office. You've managed time, money, and raised a successful person. I need someone like you. Anna hesitated, wondering what a former cleaner could do in tech. But Sophia patiently guided her through training, teaching her software, and assigning her to lead a community project, connecting poor women to job opportunities. Anna learned quickly, as if her mind stifled by years of manual labor was now unleashed. She started with small tasks, scheduling, coordinating with nonprofits, and listening to stories from women in slums. Each story mirrored her own single mother's tireless workers overlooked by society. She didn't just manage the project, she inspired, sharing her experiences to help them believe in change. At a meeting when a young colleague praised her meticulousness, Anna smiled. I used to clean floors so well you could see your reflection. I know how to do things right. The work didn't just bring income, it restored her sense of being seen. Young colleagues, initially surprised by her past as a cleaner, soon regarded her with respect. They called her Ms. Anna, listened to her in meetings, even sought her advice on handling stress. Sophia, her mentor, often stayed late with her, sipping coffee and chatting like friends. You remind me of my mom, Sophia once said, eyes sincere. She was strong too, but never recognized. Anna nodded, heart warmed, but kept silent about Michael. She'd learned to keep her story private, not from shame, but because it was hers, needing no one's validation. She began to change not just in work, but in living. She learned new recipes, homemade pasta, fragrant pumpkin soup. She joined a community yoga class, laughing with new friends as they toppled in bridge pose. She even booked a short trip to Wisconsin, standing by Lake Michigan, feeling the cool breeze through her hair. These small acts were how she reclaimed the life she'd set aside for Michael. Each day she felt larger, no longer the woman shrinking in her son's shadow. As for Michael, she heard of him through old acquaintances. After losing his job over resume discrepancies, he left his luxury apartment, renting a small room in a far suburb. A former neighbor told Anna he worked part-time, living quietly, his old confidence gone. She felt neither joy nor pain at his downfall, just a neutral calm, as if she'd learned to place him outside her emotional boundaries. She didn't reach out not from anger, but because Michael needed to find his own path as she had. One afternoon, Sophia invited Anna to a women's leadership workshop at a Chicago conference center. "You should share your story," Sophia said, eyes bright. "It'll inspire people." Anna hesitated, unsure what she had to offer, but standing before the crowd in a simple navy dress, she spoke. She shared her years as a single mother, cleaning houses, while ignored being disowned by her son. More importantly, she told how she rediscovered herself, the strength she didn't know she had until forced to rise. When she finished, the room fell silent, then erupted in applause. An older woman approached, clasping her hand. "You reminded me I can start again." That night, Anna lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling as if she'd shed a final layer of armor. She no longer waited for Michael's return, his apology, or change. She'd forgiven him not because he deserved it, but because she needed freedom. The sunflowers outside, tall and bold, symbolized her journey from an invisible woman to one daring to stand in the sun. She knew whatever the future held, she'd found her path, and no one, not even Michael, could take away the light she'd kindled herself. Anna Wilson stood before the mirror in her new home, adjusting her deep green coat, preparing for a significant day. Today, she would fly to New York to be the keynote speaker at a women's empowerment conference. Morning light streamed through the window, illuminating the sunflower petals in her garden, flowers she'd planted as symbols of her proud rise. The house, with its crisp white walls and new wood scent, wasn't just a residence, but proof of her journey to self-liberation. From a mother forgotten by her son, Anna was now a woman recognized not just by Sophia and colleagues, but by herself. A small suitcase sat by the door, holding simple clothes and a speech she'd rewritten all week. She was no longer the trembling woman at her first workshop, sharing her story with a pounding heart. Now she was confident, her voice carrying the weight of experiences forged through pain. Before leaving, she glanced at a photo on the table, her and young Michael, his beaming smile as he hugged her shoulder. The image no longer hurt, only brought a calm, as if the past had found its place. The flight to New York was short but reflective. Anna gazed out the plane window at fluffy white clouds, thinking of Michael. News of him came through acquaintances. He lived quietly in a rented room, working part-time, trying to rebuild after losing his job in Sofia. A former colleague messaged her, "Michael talks about you a lot, says he messed up." But he hadn't called or appeared. Anna didn't wait. Not from anger, but because she'd learned love didn't mean sacrificing herself forever. At the New York conference, the vast auditorium was packed. Women of all ages and backgrounds sat attentively awaiting Anna's story. She stepped onto the stage in the navy suit Sophia had chosen, stage lights warm on her face. Holding the microphone, her voice clear, "I'm Anna Wilson. For most of my life, I thought love meant sacrifice, being invisible so others could shine. I was wrong. We don't need to disappear to be loved. We deserve to shine not in shadows, but in sunlight." She shared her story, not just the years cleaning houses, raising a son alone, or the pain of Michael's denial, but how she rediscovered herself. She spoke of Robert's unexpected fortune, Sophia's support, and the community projects she led, helping other women rise. When she finished, the room fell silent, then erupted in applause. Handshakes, tears, and whispers of thank you from the crowd showed Anna her story wasn't just hers, it was the voice of countless overlooked women. Stepping off the stage, Anna felt a gaze from afar. At the back of the room, Michael stood quietly, no suit, no usual confidence. In a simple sweater, hair slightly messy, his eyes met hers with an emotion hard to name, not arrogance or shame, but recognition. He didn't approach or speak, just stood as if wanting to witness his mother's radiance. Anna didn't smile or wave, but their eyes locked briefly. In that moment, she saw the young Michael, but also a man learning to face his mistakes. A week later, back in Chicago, Michael appeared at her door. He knocked softly as if afraid to disturb. When she opened it, he stood there, thinner eyes, weary but sincere. "Mom," he said the word clear, unhesitant, for the first time in years. Anna looked at him, not inviting him in immediately, just waiting. "I want to talk," he said softly. She nodded, stepping aside. They sat in the living room on the new sofa, sunlight from the sunflower garden filtering through the window. Michael bowed his head, hands clasped tightly. "I was wrong," he began, voice breaking. "I was ashamed of our past, how we grew up. I thought pretending it didn't exist would make me belong somewhere else. But I erased you, the person who gave me everything." Anna listened, her heart stirring, but not with pain. "I thought I was protecting you," Michael continued. "But I was protecting myself. I'm sorry, Mom. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know I see my mistakes." Anna looked at him, seeing the boy who'd written "Mom is my hero" in a school essay. She took an old photo from the bookshelf, handing it to him. "You forgot where you came from," she said, voice low but steady. "But I didn't. I loved you, Michael, even when you hurt me. But I learned love doesn't mean losing myself." Michael held the photo, eyes red. "I don't know how to fix this," he said. Anna replied, "You can't fix it. You live with it, and you do better." They sat in silence, not painful, but healing. Anna didn't hug him or make promises, but when Michael stood to leave, she walked him to the door. "I'm proud of you, Mom," he said, voice small but sincere. "I wish I'd said it sooner." Anna nodded. "You'll have to live with that, too." As the door closed, she stood still, feeling a chapter close. She didn't need Michael to feel whole anymore. She'd found her own light, not from forgiveness, but from choosing herself. In the garden, the sunflowers still reached high, and Anna knew whatever the future held, she'd keep shining, not for anyone else, but for herself.